The summit began with a conversation between Minister David Anderson and myself on the very day that the Toronto report on smog emissions hit the front pages of our community, announcing that 1,000 people per year were dying prematurely as a result of smog in the city of Toronto alone, with 5,500 hospital admissions. And I had been invited, and I appreciated the invitation, to a conversation with Minister Anderson that very evening, off the record, to talk about what we could be doing on air issues. And we explored the idea of getting together in a summit format on a very tight timeline. And I want to thank the Minister and his staff and Environment Canada for how quickly they embraced the idea, drew in their partners from other parts of the federal government. And we have Minister Collinette here, who I'll introduce in a moment, who joined in and of course is responsible for the GTA as well. And in addition, we had made immediate communication through our mayor's office, who took on this challenge right off the bat and embraced it and invited the provincial government to send a representative. And despite the fact that a cabinet meeting is just beginning at Queen's Park, we will have Minister Newman joining us in a few moments. I want to thank the Toronto Better Buildings Partnership, Enbridge Consumers Gas, again Environment Canada, the Toronto Atmospheric Fund, and Toronto Hydro for their financial support for this summit so that we were able to make it happen. And going on the air, as a matter of fact, on City TV, at this very moment, for the very first time, we believe anywhere in Canada, will be the Air Quality Index on CP24, so that the citizens of Toronto at any time can turn on their television set. For today, it's CP24. I expect the other stations are quickly going to join in because it is a wonderful public service. And they'll be able to see the quality of our air, as well as have explanations from the meteorologists like Harold Hussein and the others, who will be able to tell us what it means. And this initiative came from a citizen by the name of Jenny Dean, who came to us and said, wouldn't it be a good idea? And I said, I think it's a good idea. Why don't you just go ahead and do it? And within 2.5 weeks, she'd pulled it off. She knew some of the folks at City TV, and in particular, I want to mention Steve Hurlbert, who grabbed a hold of the idea and has made this happen. So when you go home tonight, you could turn on CP24 and see the Air Quality Index. This information comes from the Ontario Ministry of the Environment. It's updated 5 times a day, and it's a very important index for thousands of people who, as our medical officer of health told us earlier, can face serious health challenges when that air index changes. So we want to thank everybody involved, our Board of Health that helped us with this, and also Franz Hartmann from my office. So that's an exciting announcement. Unfortunately, we don't have cable in Metro Hall. We used to. And then we moved over to City Hall, and to save the $40 a month, I guess, we cut the cable. I don't know. We'll have to call Ted Rogers about that. But we were hoping to show you the icon and the index right here today, but that wasn't quite able to happen. Well, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce our first speaker from the 3 levels of government who have agreed to come to a summit to address a critical health problem in our city. And they agreed to come on the basis that there wouldn't be the usual government finger pointing that often goes on, that instead the principle would be that we would all come together and show the public how we could work together on a problem of such huge magnitude. And we asked all of the participants to bring forward, on 3 weeks' notice, initiatives that they would put in place this summer. It was an impossible idea. But fortunately, and with huge amount of effort from many people, it has happened. And I can tell you that you are going to hear today a list of initiatives from all levels of government, put together literally in a very brief time frame. Many ideas that were being worked on have been rapidly accelerated to bring them to today. And they're not the only actions that are going to be taken. There are going to be more. And there's also going to be an historic agreement signed in a few minutes after we've heard the remarks from all three levels of how we're going to work together on the smog crisis in Toronto into the future, and to continue to pick up on some of the excellent ideas we heard this morning, and to respond to the very emotional and powerful statement we heard from the director of the emergency ward at the Toronto General Hospital. I've rarely been as moved as I was by the story he told, and how he asked us to consider the families who take their children in not knowing whether they will be able to continue breathing, and how he sees that happen whenever we have an air quality problem here. Our first speaker to welcome you all is our most enthusiastic member of City Council, the mayor of all of the people of Toronto, who I want to tell you has been a very strong environmentalist on our council and has supported virtually every single advanced environmental idea that has been brought from the Environmental Task Force and the many other groups. And I just think it's exciting. I call him Canada's only solar-powered mayor, because if you go to his office and look up above the office, you'll see two photovoltaic panels that were put there by Greenpeace, and the mayor was there to turn the switch, and all of that power goes directly into his office, which explains a few things about our amazing mayor. So let's welcome Mayor Lassman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I will add to your remarks from a city perspective in a moment to announce initiatives that are being taken by the City of Toronto, new announcements that the city is bringing to this summit. Next, it's a great pleasure to introduce the Honourable David Anderson. David is the Minister of Environment, and it's been my pleasure, mostly with my hat as Vice President of the FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, on, to get to know and to work with Minister Anderson in the last couple of years. He is a passionate, committed environmentalist, and perhaps this goes back to his days after he graduated from the University of British Columbia. He was a former silver medal Olympic rower, so he knows about breathing deeply. And he often talks about his own experiences as a young person with asthma as well. During his first tenure in the House of Commons, he founded the House of Commons Standing Committee on Environmental Policy. That's many years ago. Because he was elected, he left, of course, the House of Commons to become the leader of the Liberals in British Columbia in 1972, and following that, taught at the University of Victoria School of Public Administration, has worked as an environmental consultant, but most recently, of course, we know him as a minister in our federal government. He was a Minister of Revenue. As a Minister of Transport, he brought in the Canada Marine Act and brought in the new National Airports Policy, and worked to maintain the viability of our airlines, and also was an articulate advocate for his province of British Columbia. Later, at Fisheries and Oceans, he has been recognized internationally for his efforts on behalf of the salmon and the salmon conservation efforts, established Canada's first marine protected areas, and initiated efforts to improve boating safety. Lately, as the Minister of Environment, he's taken some initiatives to work with municipalities through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which have been very exciting, path-breaking, innovative, and I think are going to produce some exciting results. They are leading, in a sense, towards a national version of our Toronto Atmospheric Fund here. So it's with great pleasure that I welcome and ask you to join me in welcoming the Honourable David Anderson to the podium.